Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. I'm Dylan, and introducing my good friend, two-time Dad of the Year, runner-up only to myself, Ben.
Wow. All right. All right.
Um, and we're this week we're taking a look at Mulholland Drive in honor and sad remembrance. I feel like of David Lynch's death. You know, I feel like not many celebrities do I ever look like they die and I'm like, oh man, that one really hurt. But David Lynch was one that really hurt for me, especially because like Kyle MacLachlan and like Naomi Watts and everyone like just had the kindest things to say about him. Like Kyle MacLachlan and MacLachlan was basically like, I owe my life and my career to this man, and like he was my best friend. Naomi Watts was like he gave me a chance when no one else would, and like just the way he directed like made my career, and I was like, damn. Like Spielberg said stuff about him. Who else was it? Like James Gunn said something, and like all these like directors who like you look up to, and you're like, or like that you like, and they're like, oh yeah, David Lynch was like he started it for everybody, and you're like, shit, dude, damn. But this is one of my favorite movies. It's on my letterbox top four, and Ben had never seen it. So I'm excited to hear Ben's thoughts about Mulholland Drive. Um, but I did want to say um, this we don't really have a cocktail for this week. It's more of like a meme. There's an old like video. I think it's from a documentary, but there's a meme of like David Lynch where I don't know what the context is. He's just like, I
I just
had
had
two
two Cokes,
cookies
two cookies and a Coke.
and a Coke,
This is
and
phenomenal.
it's incredible. So, in honor of David Lynch, grab yourself a Coca Cola, some cookies, or he said that his only stipulation for his cameo as John Ford within the Fablemans for Steven Spielberg was that he had to have Cheetos on set, and I feel like maybe David Lynch would love the cheese pizza flavored Doritos if he was still around to try these bad boys. I feel like he would like just the shittiest food. I mean, but so enjoy those, or if you want, you could check out this week's sponsor, Curious Elixirs. They sent us a little care package. They are non-alcoholic or booze-free craft cocktails that you can go online and order. They come directly to your door, and they're convenient. They're ready to drink. So you just put it in the freezer or the fridge if you want. Fridge, obviously, there's not alcohol, so it will freeze. Um, but you can pour it in a glass of rice or drink it right out of the can or bottle if you're a sadist. And but they have a bunch of bold flavors. Last week we did or last episode we did the champagne cocktail for Social Network. I have a coconut pineapple painkiller here. Ben is drinking one over there. I forget what flavor you had.
It is. I have to read it because I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. The Sicilian Blood Orange Spritz. So kind of a play on like an Aperol
Yes.
Spritz type of cocktail.
And you know they're organic ingredients, no artificial or synthetic flavors. You have your adaptogens and herbs. There's no refined sugar added, and like I said, they're convenient, ready to pour, and you could take it. You know, your social gathering, you take it a little picnic, uh, and it's something you could just keep store in your fridge. Like I said last episode, I mean, I got these. I was wrong. I got these in July. I held on to them forever. Uh, July of 2024, and this one doesn't go bad until September of 2025. So it's something that, like, hey, you can, pretty good shelf life. You store it, and if it's a gathering at your house, or you just want to wind down one night, and you want something a little elevated, because I feel like I come home, I'm a big sparkly water guy. I always have one on when we're doing the podcast, but I come home and it's like, I drink water or whatever, and then it's like, I want a little something, a little pizzazz. You do you ever get that craving, Ben? You're like, I just need something other than water.
Oh yeah, 100%. We keep uh like we bought quite a bit of like liquid IVs and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not big on overly sweet. So
Yeah.
like one of those full liquid IV packets is just way too much for me to put in like a 24-ounce water.
Yeah.
We will literally make a pitcher with like a pack of liquid IV, which is good just to have
Yeah.
around the house. So that's something we always typically keep, but we're not also a big like pop family, so we don't keep a ton of pop in
Same.
the house. I mean, due to this podcast, I have like a stocked bar, but I try not to drink too much.
Yeah.
Um,
I basically only drink whenever we're doing the podcast. So
yeah, at this point now, it's that or the occasional social gathering if I take something with like a beer or something with me, but
um,
yeah, having something that's kind of also feels like a cocktail or something that just shakes it up, makes you feel a little bit more relaxed without really the alcohol in it. Enjoy it. I recommend it.
and if you want to check out Curious Elixirs, go to the show notes below. We'll have an affiliate link there, and you guys can check out what they have to offer. They do like packs, or you could probably buy singles. You can subscribe, so it's a little cheaper, and you'll get it every month. So check out Curious Elixirs, and thanks for supporting the podcast. Um, yeah, I'm not a big pop drinker, and I did buy this Coke just for the shiggles, for the 2 cookies and a Coke. But
Committed to the bit.
yeah, but I had that moment. I don't know if you have it, Ben, but do you ever have like a self-reflective moment where you like start to think something in your mind, and you're like, God, I'm becoming like my parents or the people that I hate, because I was like at the checkout and I was like, shit, I need a Coke too. So I like went and grabbed the 20-ounce Coke, and I was like, shit, it's $2.40 for a bottle of Coke now. I remember when those were $1. This inflation is getting crazy. And then I was like, fuck, why are you thinking that? Like, I just had that moment and I was like, oh God, I hate myself. Why would I ever think that?
No, it does hit me when I see things and I'm like, wait, what? This used to be what? No. What happened? It's also just things with dates
Oh
where
yeah.
it's just like, you see the things are like, we're closer now to like the release date. Is it I can't remember if it's the beginning or the end of that 70s show to now is larger than the gap from the end of the 70s to the beginning of that 70s show. And I'm like, wait, what? What? How did this happen?
Yeah, it's like
I remember that show in its entirety. How am I this old?
that was what was it? We're closer to. I don't know if you remember the Disney Channel original movie Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like we're closer to the date of that movie, like that is in the movie, than the release date now or something.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
that's yeah. I find myself having those moments with plenty of different things where it's like you catch yourself with the feeling of things that make you feel old.
Yeah,
But I also get the things
the
too.
the Wii ID if you're under like 2003 or something, you're like, oh
What?
God.
What? Especially this year. Bear in mind, this year we're gonna hit a point where like I will be able to look at the sign and know that it has been like a decade. Like, oh my God. What?
I was just thinking about something earlier today, and I was like talking to my wife because we went to Disney World, loved it with our daughter, and she was kind of like, oh, should we go to Disneyland Paris or like Disney Tokyo or whatever, and I was like, oh, those would be sick, and I really want to go to Japan. And I was kind of like, well, maybe we should wait till she's older so it's like she could do more and like it's more memorable. And I was like, yeah, like I remember going on these vacations when I was like in eighth grade, but I really remember the vacations I went on when I was in like high school and like, like I went to Hungary for my spring break in like high school or whatever with one of my friends. And I was like, I remember that. And then my wife was like, yeah, but you went when you were a senior. And I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago. That was like 12 years. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's still like, we're getting old.
Yeah, I know. There's times where you watch stuff and you're like, you hear the characters and like, I'm almost 30. And I'm just like, fuck you.
My life is over. I'm almost 30. You're like, I am 30.
No.
I'm
what does that mean
31.
for my life? Yeah, there's times where that hits and I'm just like, damn, this hurts a little bit. Or you hear like the people who are like, such and such wasn't always a success. Like they didn't catch on until they were like, and then it'll be like 28 or 29, and I'm just like, no.
Has my
Either
chance.
one of two things is gonna happen. I'm never gonna make it, or eventually that saying's gonna be, he was in his 30s when he finally made something of himself.
You could always like aim to be like the youngest of like something that's like typically very old. He was the youngest geriatric at 30. But yeah, this week we looked at one of my favorite movies, Mulholland Drive, which is a 2001 film from David Lynch. Originally was created as a TV pilot, and little backstory into like how the movie kind of plays out. David Lynch also had like a real life like headbutting between him and ABC, who he was trying to pitch the pilot to, who eventually like pulled the plug on the show on him. And he has since said that like while there is some kind of like semblance to it, it was not necessarily because of that. But Mulholland Drive is the story of after a car wreck on Mulholland Drive renders a woman amnesiac. She and a Hollywood hopeful search for clues and answers across Los Angeles in a twisting venture beyond dreams and reality. Currently sits at a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb and a 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It is the number 204 movie on Letterboxd. Was nominated for 1 Oscar, Best Director for David Lynch. And it was directed by David Lynch, written by David Lynch, stars Naomi Watts, Laura Harring, Justin Theroux, Robert Forster's in there.
Yeah, I think those three, though, are really kind of the stars of the movie.
Yeah, most everyone else is like a cameo, sort of. Like, they have like bit parts, like Billy Ray Cyrus is in there.
The one guy who always stands out to me, well, there were two. Actually, there were three. There were a couple people that immediately stood out.
Michael J. Anderson is in a lot of David Lynch stuff. The guy who plays Mr. Rourke.
Oh, yes. Not who I was thinking of. The guy at the diner at the beginning who walks out, sees the old lady, and kind of dies.
Yes.
He's in a lot. I remember him from Mad Men, but I feel like after seeing him in that, I've noticed he's in a lot of other stuff.
Yeah. Patrick Fischler.
Yes. Dan Hedaya. He's one of the studio execs.
Yeah, one of the casting
guys.
Castellani brothers.
Yeah, he's in The Usual Suspects is what I remember him from. But I also feel like he's always like either a cop or a mobster.
Yeah.
Like if you were to just be like picture the quintessential actor who always plays a cop or a mobster, it's like, okay, yeah, I've got him. That's him.
I feel like it's the eyebrows. Like he wouldn't be able to like play much else. He just looks stern with those eyebrows.
And then the other one that stood out was Mark Pellegrino, who's in a lot of stuff. He was in Supernatural, Lost.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just been in a lot. He's become one of those, like, if a TV show is on long enough, he will have a major role.
He was there.
Like, either he guest starred or, more likely, he was there for a full, like, run in the show.
Ben, what did you think on your first viewing of Mulholland Drive?
Oh, man. I enjoyed it. I will say, what irked me was just, like, by the time we got to the big twist in the movie, obviously, spoilers, if you haven't seen it and you're listening to this podcast, why? But when they get to the big, like, twist part with the box, I was sitting there like Charlie from It's Always Sunny with, like, the red strings trying to figure shit out. Of, like, what is fucking happening in this movie? And I'm like, what? I feel like, and in a way it makes sense, right? Like, so let's just dive into it.
Okay.
About, I'd say what it's in the last
2 hours.
40-ish.
I think it's like yeah, I want to say it's like 1 hour and 45 or 2 hours into the movie. We realized that the first half of the movie is actually
Betty is Diane, the woman who they find dead in the apartment.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and all of this has been Diane's, like,
dreams.
fever dream.
Yeah, it's her idea of what she wanted the world to be. Because she is actually not this hopeful actress who gets the bigger parts than what she auditioned for. She only gets parts that her friend that she met at the audition can get her on the movies she's on.
Yeah.
And, like, she's this burnout actress who she actually hired a hit that we find out the movie begins with. She hired the hit on Camilla. Yeah, it's funny because, like, the first couple times I watched it, I was like, what is happening? Like, this is crazy. And then, like, as you, like, watch it again and again, you're like, okay, now I'm making more sense of everything.
I feel like they just introduced a lot of things that just kind of then went untouched.
Yeah.
Once things changed over. Like, there was all of this stuff about this, like, what is essentially, at least to me, comes across as mob entanglement in the movies, to be like, you're going to cast this person. This is what you're doing. But then there's really nothing else ever really about it that comes of it.
Yeah. Well,
Mark Pellegrino, who Diane hires in the end, the hitman, we see him early on.
in, like, the funniest part of the movie.
Yeah. all to take a book. But then it's never talked about again. And now I'm sitting here like, well, is that part of the dream? Was that supposed to not be part of the dream?
No, it is. I mean, if you take it at, like, face value, I think it is. I think the first half of the movie, because apparently, like, the first shot right before the credits is like a head hitting the pillow, or, like, falling asleep.
Okay.
And then this all plays out, and then once you hit the, like, box, then it switches over.
Okay. So, like, we have him doing this hit for this book, but that storyline goes nowhere.
Well, I think it's just part of, like, everything going on. Like, it's so that character is there, one, but then it's also just, like, you know, that's who she hired. Like, this is how she's, like, playing it out. Like, he's like this bumbling idiot, that, like, he couldn't get the hit done or whatever, you know? Like, I feel like it's a lot of it is, you know, obviously her and Camilla fall in love in this dream, and, like, they're together, and they have like have a love for each other. Where in like reality, she loves Camilla. Camilla doesn't really love her. She's kind of playing her and being like, I'm gonna kiss this other girl, and I want you to come here, and then like stay on set, and I'm gonna kiss Adam, and like kind of like doing these things to make her jealous. And then you have Adam in reality, he's this big director and he's directing things and he's successful, while in the dream he's kind of more of a bumbling idiot. Like he's doing these things, but like his life is ruined because the he's not going to cast that girl, and then like his movie's shut down, and like the only way that Camilla gets parts in that is because the mob is forcing Camilla into
Which,
the.
yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's her, like, she's there she almost gets to meet him, but, Rita gets in the way of that, where she might have had a chance. I, I, I just feel like, I don't know, it felt like there was a lot of things
Well, I
that
think
were
that's. I don't.
touched upon
I don't
and
think
built
it's.
into in, like, the dream realm, that then it was just like, wait, what?
I don't
There's
think it's
no
Rita getting in the way of her
wrap.
there. I think it's kind of almost the dream breaking sort of there.
Oh, you think
Like
that's what
that
it was?
that like it's like he kind of recognizes her, and they like that's why they're locking eyes and like have that moment is like he kind of like like it's I feel like it's like the dream kind of breaking, and then
Okay.
she has to leave. But
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. I think
See, I
it's.
took it almost as her commitment to Rita, who was, in the end, the actress who got Camilla, who got the part. To her, it was her commitment to that is why she left and why she didn't get the chance to get the part. Because she was going in to meet with the director, and in her mind, that casting agent was going to get her in front of this director. And so, to her, she was a lock. And then she had to run out because Rita, and then in her mind that was maybe like contempt. I don't know.
See, and this is why this movie is fun. And this is why I think, you can take it on face value, I feel like, too, and just be like, he just did whatever he wanted. And he just put in scenes for why not, But at the same time, I feel like we can sit here and we can be like the art teacher who's like, I really liked the way you did this because,
I really like the way you used all of this red crayon here. It really creates a sense of distrust
See,
in the
the
piece.
cowboy symbolizes, it's like, uh, I I I like that you can sit there and do that with this movie because I think it's purposeful though with this movie. There are these layers and
Oh no, this definitely seems like a movie that David Lynch. I think this movie comes across as something that David Lynch put stuff in, not knowing what the plan was, but just being like, man, people are gonna not know what the fuck to think. Like, people are gonna debate this. And,
I
like,
will
I'm just gonna
disagree
sit back
and I
popcorn
say
it.
I disagree and I say he knew what he was doing here. Like the surrealism is on purpose and it's not. I mean, according to some of his
Oh no
other
no no
movies,
no! I'm just saying maybe he didn't have an exact answer,
of
and
like why he usually
he's
doesn't
leaving it.
explain.
Yes, he's leaving it open ended on purpose for everyone else to debate it.
Yeah, I say, Ben, you should watch Inland Empire because that is my least favorite David Lynch film, and it is something. They like wrote it as they shot it and shot it on like
Oh God!
DV cams from Best Buy. It's it's got Laura Dern as like the lead, kind of similar esque plot of like an actress kind of like losing it within a role type thing. But like, yeah, I think David Lynch does a really great job of like blending this like Blue Velvet does it too, where you see this like perfect town, and then there's this seedy underbelly, and then here we see this like LA is this like dream world where you can go and be a star, and we see that with Diane when she comes in, like she meets Irene on the plane, and I'll see you on television, Diane. Like, you know, it's like this bright. The first half of the film is like shot like a classic movie where it's bright and there's big scenes and everything, and then once we find out the reality of what happened, like when you go to Club Silencio and you see that it's all a recording and that the talent doesn't matter. The girl passes out and the song keeps playing. We see the reality of like Hollywood isn't all it's made out to be. Like there is this seedy underbelly. There is this dark side of we saw the mob in the dream half, and we see like the accident and the hit and all that, but then we see like, oh, Diane didn't make it. Like Diane, they didn't make it. Like she's actually like in love with this person, struggling to make her rent pay, switching apartments because the detectives are looking for her from this hit, and like she ends up killing herself because she can't face the guilt of like having put this hit out on Camilla, and you're like, oh god, I don't know. It's like this great duality of like showing this like the town. I don't know. I think he does a great job at that, and I think the other thing is just Naomi Watts. Like I don't know if it's just makeup or what, but like when you see her as Betty, and she's like this bright, cheery girl, and oh my goodness, like she's kind of like gullible almost, like naive, because she's like new to town and like whatever. And then you see her as Diane, and she's like looks rough, and you're like, damn, like that's
Well,
the
not even
same
that,
person.
but like I feel like like even Laura Laura Herring when she switches from Rita to Camilla,
Yeah,
she even looks different.
yeah,
Not, I don't think it's as drastic as Naomi Watts is, but it's still one of those things where you're like, is that the same? Well, at first I did a double take because I'm like, didn't we already meet a Camilla Rhodes? I'm like, did they
yeah.
just switch actresses halfway through and now we've just kind of recast this woman?
Oh my god, it's one of my favorite shots in the whole movie. Is post the dream, like the blue box. We see Diane's at her house, and she's like in the kitchen. I think it was. She's in the kitchen, and she looks over, and it's like reverse shot with Camilla, shot back to Diane, and you're like, oh, she's there, and then it's reverse shot back onto Diane on Camilla's side of the world, and you're just like, what the like it like broke the 180 rule kind of, because you're just on the other side of the actress, but it's like such a like jarring way of like doing something that is so traditional in film, that like you never really think of or see that much, I feel like. But yeah, that scene I'm like, oh shit, whoa. Like what?
All right. Also, can we talk about what was supposed to be the lady behind the Winkies or whatever?
That is, I think, symbolizes the guilt
Okay.
that she is facing, because that's like then at the end is like when the Irene kind of sneaks out of there, her and her husband, and they have that creepy scene where they sneak into the apartment and chase
Yeah.
her down. Yeah, I think that symbolizes guilt. I'm not gonna act like I know everything or I'm right,
Oh, I was just confused
but
because again, you see the guy that Patrick Fischler plays in the beginning. He turns around this corner and then like goes down with a heart attack. And then we see this person again out of the dream realm, but it's never really touched about what it is or why it played any sort of part in the movie.
which I just want to say, personally, I think that Winky's scene at the beginning of the movie is one of the like most unsettling things that I can remember in a movie. It's not even like that like creepy. It's literally just like the way with the like droning music, the like retelling of a dream of like a bad dream you had and the feeling that like I've personally had of like you dream something and it feels so real that you have to like go check to make sure it's not real. Uh like I've had that thing and then like the fact that it just happens in broad daylight and all this is happening in the broad daylight and it's still unsettling, I feel like adds to that. Like kind of like if you've seen Midsummer, like that movie's creepy and it all just happens in broad daylight and you're like fuck, like am I not safe anymore at daytime? Um but yeah, and I just love the way that he tells the dream or he like is telling the dream and he's like, yeah, you know, and I look over here and you're standing right there at the counter and then, you know, whatever happens and then we see like that he's like, okay, I'm gonna go pay or whatever, and you see the shot like sits on uh Dan is the character's name, but you see like Dan sit there and then he turns over and it's like that realization that like, oh shit, am I in the dream right now? And then he like gets up and the table has like he didn't touch the food at all, and then they do the reverse shot of them walking out and there's no food on the table and you're like, fuck, like what's real? Am I in the dream? Like what's happening here? I don't know. I just feel like that scene is like the perfect David Lynch scene and it's just like so unsettling to me. I don't, you know.
Yeah.
Plus there's the
Yeah.
jump scare at the end with the
Yeah.
creepy
Plus
trash
gets you-
lady.
Yeah. Creepy trash lady. No, I enjoyed kind of watching and seeing this whole, like I said, kind of this noir mystery play out as things went on. It just got to the point where I was then confused as to like what the hell, was was some of this stuff anything I actually needed to pay attention to? Did it just not matter at all? And I'm like, I shouldn't really worry about it. Uh, it just is what it is. But
I feel like I've praised the other actors, but I love Justin Theroux in this movie. Like his character is just so he's annoying, but at the same time like I like him. Like he's kind of a douche, but then like you kind of feel for him. I feel for him in the first half of the movie when it's like the mob is gonna try and like recast his movie, and he's like, no, like I don't let you recast my movie, and like goes and busts their window, and then his girlfriend or his wife cheats on him. You're like, damn, this guy's kind of rough.
oh yeah, yeah. You know who he completely reminds me of in this movie?
Oh,
There's two different people that come to mind when I saw him in this movie.
okay.
One, James Gunn. His vibe, everything about him just screamed this character's
All right,
face
yes,
off of James
yeah.
Gunn. And two, I sat there and was like, man, like I kept trying to place the actor, and at first it was like, is this just Sam Rockwell? Am I just not realizing this is Sam Rockwell? Or I honestly had to look because for a minute I was 100% convinced that's who it was. Those were the two people. Like I said, Sam Rockwell, who jumped to mind like as the actor playing the character, and then in the movie I'm like, is David Lynch just know James Gunn at this point? Was just like, I'm gonna take some shots real quick.
Oh shit. Wait, what? All right. I I had to look up because you were like, oh, is this like based off of James Gunn? I'm like, well, obviously it's not, but I did not realize like the early part of his career, like, um, I feel like I like off in the distance I knew that he had like a Trauma Entertainment beginning with like Tromeo and Juliet and all that. I did not realize that he wrote Scooby Doo
Yeah.
and then Dawn of the Dead remake and Scooby Doo 2.
So he originally wrote Scooby Doo as an R-rated movie.
I feel like I heard about that.
Which after seeing like Guardians in that, you're kind of like, man, a more adult Scooby Doo would kind of be. I think that would be kind of fun.
I feel like they've kind of tried to do that. Didn't that Velma show, wasn't that kind of R-rated? The one with Mindy Kaling that everyone slams on?
Yeah, but I think, and I didn't hate. I didn't hate that show. I haven't watched the second season yet. I've
Oh,
been meaning to actually check it out. I didn't hate it. I feel like a lot of people just. I feel like it got a lot of review bomb
for the
because
ethnicity swap?
yes,
Yeah.
100%. Um, and then people also didn't like it because they just kind of nixed Scooby Doo out of it.
Hmm.
People weren't thrilled with that. I didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be,
Yeah.
but I also just prefer. I just think I prefer James Gunn's like humor in that way after seeing like what he did with the Marvel movies and that,
Yeah.
and even like Suicide Squad. I feel like he would have done if he would have been allowed to get a little bit more reign creatively on Scooby Doo. I feel like that would have been a fun movie.
Well, and I feel like it's something that people like they've done slightly because like they have oh, what is the show? Um oh my god, it's not on here. Okay. Of course it's not on when I go to search it. But they had like the dude who did Regular Show. I don't know if you ever watched Regular Show on Cartoon Network. It was like towards the tail end of when we were like growing up.
I know what it is, but I don't remember watching it.
It's like 2010 to 2017. But like
Yeah.
then he did an HBO Max series that was like he did Regular Show. It's like J.G. Quintel. He did Regular Show for Cartoon Network, which was like teen comedy. Like, and then he did an HBO Max show in 2020, I think. That was like, it was like a adult animation show, and it was like very similar, basically a similar plot, almost like not necessarily plot, but like similar like vibe and everything, and like his animation style. And it was like this works as an adult one and as a teen comedy,
Yeah.
like and I feel like Scooby Doo probably the same way.
Yeah, I think
You just
I
need
think that would be
you just
the
need
case.
people willing to take a chance. Maybe
Yeah.
that's Hanna and Barbera doesn't want to do an R-rated one, but I do feel like
I think it was more Warner's at the time that they were doing it because they saw the movie. Obviously, they Scooby Doo is a kids
yeah,
IP,
it's like
so it was
beloved
like
kids.
I don't really want to cut off a giant chunk of my viewing audience to do this. So maybe let's not.
It's probably a good idea. Um, oh, I said I am looking back through my notes. Uh, I was like, Ben must love all of this Americana in the like audition scene, and I mean even the
Okay, that audition scene, I was legitimately watching it and I was like, fuck, I want to see this movie. I did. I did. I'm like, damn, I really like this. I really want to see. I really want to see this. I want to see more of this.
oh my god. Well, the 16 Reasons song is like really good, especially with the like old school Hollywood like dolly zoom in on Naomi Watts' character when they like first lock eyes. I'm like, ooh, that is so good. Which feels this like I feel like this movie is like it's like a love letter and like an antithesis to like Hollywood, I feel like. Because like when you watch the first half of the movie, and I mean the whole thing really is just like it's a love letter to cinema. Um, like David Lynch loves like the Wizard of Oz, and so there's a lot of like Wizard of Oz within this movie. Like Diane or Betty is like Dorothy.
Yeah.
But she doesn't get to go home. She doesn't like go back to Kansas. She gets the opposite. She dies, but you know, but like the way that he just like makes the film, like so much of it is like a love letter to cinema and Hollywood, and then I think the subject matter is like the but also hold on a second.
Well, I think yeah, he does a good job of, and even kind of in the movie portraying that too of like hey, here's the ideal version of Hollywood, and now we're in the real world. And this is what Hollywood is really like.
There's a really good review of the movie on Letterboxd, and also many articles, blogs out in the world about this movie, about like trying to break it down. But the number one review on Letterboxd is a very good like breakdown of like, you know, oh, like this character in the dream, she's this and then this, and like just breaking down like a lot of that like duality. Last part here says, much more than being a simple "it was all a dream" twist, the film's dual nature offers us insight into the relationship between fantasy, our frame for understanding the world around us, and the fiction, in this case, cinema. Everything about the first half of the movie is self-consciously theatrical. The performances are obvious, the lighting is overdone, and the story is filled with overused tropes and cliches, like the police detectives and a case of mistaken identity. The first half is like a movie being created in Naomi Watts' mind. It's obvious that movies are essentially phantasmic, whether they're constructed for the fantasies of the author or as fantasies of the audience. But Mulholland Drive offers us the opposite truth, that these fictions come to determine our fantasies. That the way we understand the world is by filtering it through the fantasies offered to us in the world of fiction. That we give meaning and purpose to our chaotic lives by understanding them as a narrative. That, as Lycan says, truth is stranger than fiction. And then they go on to be like fun facts and stuff. So like when Naomi Watts calls the number for Diane Selwyn and she says, "It's strange calling yourself." It's like what's interesting about this line is that she actually is calling herself, but she doesn't know it at that point. She thinks she's calling Rita.
Yeah. I'm just looking through some of the trivia things in here. One, I did not put together that the song that's being sung at the
Club Silencio,
yes is
the Roy Orbison song.
yeah. I did not put that together.
I
It'll
was
be stuck in
telling
my
you
head
that's
now.
what I was gonna say is like Ben's probably loving this movie for all the Americana.
I was just reading this though is that when talking to Adam Kesher, the cowboy says, "You'll see me one more time if you do good, two more times if you do bad." Justin Thoreau said since he didn't have the entire script and was receiving pages day by day, he asked David Lynch, "Does the cowboy appear again in the film?" According to him, Lynch said, "I don't know. We'll find out together." The cowboy does, in fact, turn up two more times,
Yeah, he
but
does.
only appears to Diane.
Did you see him?
Well, the one was in like the party scene he walks through.
Yeah. Well, the other one's just him showing up in the movie. Just when he's like, "Hey, wake up, pretty girl."
Yeah. All right. Here we get into Naomi Watts talking about an uncomfortable scene to film. I don't know that we need to talk about that.
Which one was it? Is it the audition one? Because I feel like that one's more uncomfortable to me than the two lesbian sex scenes that happen.
No, I will say that one was uncomfortable to watch, that audition scene.
That is the most uncomfortable thing to watch in the whole movie.
Yeah, no, that one was uncomfortable.
Like the making out and the groping and like the because they're like, oh, they all, sweetie, they all do the same lines,
the same
and stuff.
thing. Yeah.
And then she like does this, and he's like, wow, you're amazing. And I'm like, ew,
Yeah.
I feel greasy watching this.
No, I even the girl on girl scenes, which at times I thought got a little gratuitous. The masturbation scene was a bit much.
You know, that one I wasn't that offended by. Actually, I feel like it was very tasteful and artsy. The lesbian sex scenes were a little, which at first, at first it's always funny when I watch this movie because I was like, feels a bit forced when she says I love you after knowing this woman for one day. And then it was like, oh yeah,
You
that's
don't think
right.
it's weird when she just like so she so let me get this straight. This woman was just gonna sleep on this stranger's couch, buck naked.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. On the it was like leather, wasn't it? Too.
Yeah, that's I'm just like that's
She's gonna peel herself off of it in the morning.
look, man. I was fully clothed, sleeping on one of those little leather hospital couches,
Oh
and
god,
I would wake up every time my body shifted a little bit and like pulled on that fake leather. Oh God.
God, I hate leather. I hate leather seats in cars, and I hate leather couches. Cause I'm a short span through and through. So whenever I'm like, I go to sit in like a car with leather seats in the summer, and you just peel off, and I'm like, ah, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
All right, here we go. David Lynch's 10 clues to unlocking this thriller.
Ooh, okay.
Let's go through. All right. Pay particular attention in the beginning of the film. At least 2 clues are revealed before the credits. Which, like you said, we saw the head hit the pillow. I don't know what the second clue is.
Uh, is it the jitterbug thing?
Maybe. Notice appearances of the red lampshade. I don't even remember a red lampshade looking back at the movie now.
Is that when she's making the phone call?
I don't know. Can you hear the title of the film that Adam Kesher is auditioning actresses for? Is it mentioned again? Yeah, wasn't it like the... Oh, it was some woman's name. The something story. Oh.
Oh shit! Wow. Have you seen Twin Peaks, Ben? I feel like you have.
No, I have not.
This says that David Lynch originally wrote the basic idea of the story in the 1990s as a spin-off of Twin Peaks. The character arc of Betty in the movie was written for Audrey Horne in Twin Peaks, if anyone has seen it, who would have been the central figure of the proposed spin-off, which sounds amazing. Monty
all right.
Montgomery, who portrayed the cowboy, couldn't remember his lines, so Justin Theroux had to hold up boards for him to read off camera.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna go back to these 10 these
all right.
10 clues. Yeah, I remember the movie's about something about some woman's life, but I can't remember the name of it. 4. An accident is a terrible event. Notice the location of the accident. Wasn't it on Mulholland?
Yeah,
Okay, and I don't know what that clue's supposed to be.
right.
Who gives a key and why?
The hitman.
Yep. Notice the robe, the ashtray, the coffee cup. No, don't know. What is felt, realized, and gathered at the Club Silencio? That's the whole kind of like we talked about, where it's like it keeps going on. It's all fake.
Yeah, it's
And
like
it goes with you or without you.
yeah, it's kind of like the realization of like, which I feel like it hits Betty the most is like, it's Diane realizing like she didn't make it. She is the failed actress. Like, this is all a dream. Because it's right after that where she's like, let's use the key. And then we find out, oh, the key
Yeah.
symbolizes that the hit was done. So, and I think in the very first scene after she, like after that, isn't it sitting on the table because the neighbor's the one knocking on the door, and it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Did talent alone help Camilla? They don't. I mean,
We kind of talked about that.
yeah, but in real life, do we really know?
I don't think so.
We have this in Diane's mind that no, talent didn't help her. She had a bunch of people pulling the strings behind her. We don't really know in real life what that story was. Notice the occurrences surrounding the man behind Winkies. We kind of talked about that. I'll be honest. I don't know what those are supposed to symbolize. I feel like, again, David Lynch is just like dangling a carrot in front of me, knowing that I'm never going to put the puzzle pieces together, and is just laughing at me as I'm sitting there going, I don't get it. And then, where is Aunt Ruth? Now, in
She's
the
dead.
dream sequence, she's on vacation.
Yeah. In reality, she's dead.
In reality, she's dead. Well, yeah, because in reality, it's her money is what allowed Betty to move down.
Yeah.
The cowboy has no eyebrows. This was done to give him a more subtle, disturbing appearance. Mission accomplished.
I love that scene though, because it's like I feel like it's like quintessential David Lynch. Just like this kind of surreal, but also it's like such like a deep throat moment. Like if you've watched like All the President's Men or like X Files, where it's like you're meeting in this like back alley somewhere to like get some information, but it's like and God, like Adam is such a fucking pain in the ass the whole time too. Especially like setting up the meeting when it's like what's it? Is it Catherine or something? What's the yeah or Cynthia? And she's
Yeah.
like, "Do you know somebody called the Cowboy?" Like the Cowboy, yeah. And he's like, "Oh, do I need to wear my 10-gallon hat, and my 6 shooters to meet him? What do I got to ride my pony off into the sunset or something?" She's like, "Well, kind of. You got to go meet him at this ranch or whatever, the top of the canyon." But yeah, the whole time when he's like, "Are you listening to me? What did I say? You said that a man."
He said a man's attitude affects the outcome of his life. Are you agreeing with me? Or did you actually listen to me? I agree with you. What did I say? Man, so you'd say your life has a bad outcome?
Well, I want you to stop for a second and think. Will you do that for me? Okay, I'm thinking. Well, no, you're not thinking. You're too busy being a smart aleck to be thinking. Now I want you to think and stop being a smart aleck. The whole, I can like picture like David Lynch like writing these lines. I mean, obviously it's his movie, but just like there's sometimes a buggy. How many drivers does a buggy have? One. So let's see, I'm driving this buggy. If you fix your attitude, you can like ride along with me. God, oh man, I just feel like there's so many scenes in this movie that are like memorable to me. Like we've talked about a couple of them, but like when he's in the first meeting with the Castellani brothers, and the dude's like, "Oh, we've got you the best espresso in the world. It comes highly recommended." And he like tries the espresso, and, like spits it out. Like every time I'm like, "It's the espresso scene. It's the espresso scene." I don't know why, but that's just like so memorable to me because it's like, what the fuck? Like, what does this have to do with anything that is happening?
There was so much in this movie that I constantly, after finishing it, went, "What did that have to do with any of this?"
Well, that's kind of like the Mr. Rourke character, just like we know nothing about. Like he's just exists as like this creepy entity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's where I'm like, we introduced this thing with the mobsters and we just never touch it again. That is one of the things.
Yeah, because there's the guy that's working. I assume he's like a producer or something. I guess
Yeah.
he's like working with Adam, and he goes over there to him, and he's like, he didn't. He said no. What do you want to
Should we
do?
shut it down? Yes.
What do you think? Yeah, we should shut it down. But that means, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, like that character was just there. I guess I don't know.
Like I said, the whole
It,
thing with the, and I get it, they do it to introduce this bumbling hitman, but like the the whole
the
thing
whole
with the
scene
book.
with him.
Well, the
Yeah.
whole thing with the book. I'm like,
I
is this
love
supposed
that
to,
scene.
is this supposed to go somewhere? This felt like a Tarantino Pulp Fiction, but like we just started a bunch of stories and decided not to connect the dots. We just, which let me say, if you're doing this as a pilot, makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it would. You could come back around to that.
Well, yeah, because you got to think maybe, you're kind of going through this, and if the pilot were to still go through with, this being a kind of a dream sequence or whatever, and you're going to kind of keep it moving throughout, then yeah, there's things in the dream world you can go back and keep visiting to follow up on these, but in a movie you can't do that. You can't just tease all of these side stories and then just be like, nah, nope. Oh, were you invested in this? Oh, that sucks.
I mean, does it serve a purpose? Not really, but I do love the introduction to. I think it's Joe. Is the hitman? Like,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
yeah, like when he kills the dude to steal the book, and then accidentally like shoots through the wall. And then he has to like try to kill that lady, and then there's the vacuum cleaning guy in the end of the hall who he has to kill too, and then he
He's
lights
like,
the whole
"Come
building
on,
on fire.
help me." Yeah.
Oh, she's hurt really bad. I need
I
your help.
can't do
You have to
everything
call the
myself
police.
here.
You have to call the police. Come here.
Yeah,
I was
come
like,
call
God.
from this room.
Yeah, come all the way over here. Yeah, that's another scene that like the tone it just, which makes sense if it's a dream, like your dreams are all over the place, but yeah, like the fact that like the tone of that scene is so comedic and like dark comedy when the rest of the movie is not that, it just is kind of humorous to me. Uh, is there anything else, Ben? That's
No, I don't. I don't think so. Like I said, I would be curious now to watch maybe like the pilot version
yeah.
to see, I guess, what they would have changed or what they were trying to do to set up more of a series as opposed to a movie.
Yeah, it's yeah, I would like to know. I don't know if it does as much because I was going through my notes again, and I was kind of like thinking about like, oh, it is nice, like kind of like David Crumb, David Lynch putting these crumbs out there of like, oh, check this, but like when he does it in the movie, and it's like, oh, the name tags flip flopped, like Diane and Betty, like at the diner.
Yeah.
Uh, like Camilla kissing the Camilla from the real world. Like, there's all these little small hints out there, like tying the two. I would be interested to know the creative process behind like what he did and what like were these two different things that he kind of like two different ideas that he then like melded together? Was it always a dream and a reality? And like, how did he? If it was two separate ideas, how did he tie it together? And is it just these little crumbs that we've pieced it back together, or I would love to like know the idea behind it.
Yeah, I feel like this is a thing where like that's one of those like if you could have dinner with someone, like I just want to sit down and be like, all right, walk me through this.
But the thing is he's always asked and he never like. There's like some interview from one time and
He gave those like the 10, like I just read those 10 clues. There's a whole article about like it was like what?
Gets me every time. There's like an old clip. It's like a BAFTA interview. It's like the British Film Awards.
Okay.
And he's like talking to the interviewee or whatever, and he's like,
Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
Why elaborate on that?
No, I won't.
Can you elaborate? No, I will not.
it's like it's like so you're like, okay, well, sure, whatever. I can't argue with that. But yeah, I just feel like you would never explain anything, and that's okay. I feel like you don't have to. It doesn't have to make sense for you to like enjoy it. I think that's part of the thing. Like that review was saying, how we, craft our fantasies through fiction, and like we have to make a narrative out of it in our mind. Is like, sometimes surreal or experimental things don't sit well with most people's, because I feel like we do kind of think narratively. We have to have a meaning or a purpose or a story to what we're seeing or thinking, and it's kind of unsettling sometimes if there is no point or there is no like purpose to what we're seeing. There's no narrative to it. I feel like that is something that can upset a lot of people. And it's kind of that like I mean, I like his work. He's a shitty dude, but like H.P. Lovecraft, like that kind of like thought of like existential dread of like this unexplainable, like you can't process it horror. It's kind of like similar to that, where it's like sometimes like avant-garde, like surreal art is kind of like, I don't know what it is and I don't know why, and I don't like that. Yeah. It's kind of it's kind of like that, where it's like I can't process it with the world that I live in. I can't process what this is. And I think that's part of the draw to David Lynch sometimes, is like I feel like he's Jackson Pollock-esque of just painting with a brush. Like he was super into like transcendental meditation and stuff, so it's like fishing for these ideas, and like once you have this little idea, you use it as bait for the bigger ideas, and it'll grow. And it's like I feel like sometimes you can watch his movies and you can kind of see like this was probably an idea and it grew into this, and whether that is a complete idea and actually like told this whole story, maybe not. And I just feel like that's sometimes what the draw is like, oh, we're in this realm of reality and this is happening, and then this is this weird little surreal thing that's happening, and how does that play into this?
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything else, Ben, we could go do some reviews.
No, I think I'm good to go into reviews. I feel like even talking about this movie, I'm gonna be like 2 days from now, something is gonna pop in my head, and I'm gonna be like, oh god, how did I not put this together?
And those are the best kind of movies, Ben. The ones that sit with you, and you sit and you think about them, and you're like, wait a second. That's why House is so good. as you
No,
sit there and it just simmers, you know?
nothing
It's like
simmers. A turd simmering is still a turd.
we're making some turd broth, Ben.
Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Well, there is only one goob in the goob squad this week. Ben had not seen this film, so he's going to give you a fresh rating, and then I will give you an updated rating from my nostalgia rating, because I haven't seen this movie in a while. So, Ben, lead us off.
Yeah. Um. I did, even though it's a, I'm gonna call it a think piece. I don't know if it's intentional. I'm sure it probably is an intentional think piece. Um, and it has open-ended things, which usually irks me a lot. I'm just gonna go just from the jump, diving into this movie. The first 5 to 10 minutes of this movie feel like so lick your fingers deliciously of its era. If that makes sense, it gives you that. It kind of feels very similar to like an LA Confidential slash Usual Suspects slash. I don't know if it's just with the way. I think it was just the way it was shot, the lighting, the graininess to it. It just felt very like late '90s, early 2000s noir, psychological thriller mystery, and that had just put worm on a hook, toss that in, and I'm gonna bite every freaking time. Um, so I did really enjoy kind of following along, and I liked trying to solve, putting together the things for this mystery. Uh, the twist I did not see coming. It definitely got me with the whole it being a not just a dream, but like it being a dream in the sense that, with what the truth of the situation is. Um, like I said, some of the things that just lead you to a path that's just never touched again does irk me, and it will probably for forever. Um, but overall, I think all of the performances were fantastic. Um, I will say, I think in comparison to, I think I kind of talked about some of the other like noirish suspense mystery movies of its time. I think this movie's like cinematography and shot selection, it doesn't come across as different at the start, but as you go through the movie, there's so many things that do make it feel different and of its own that was really cool. Uh, Overall, I really liked it. I will probably, not right away, but at some point give it another watch and see if there's maybe other subtle things that maybe I missed the first go round. Um, but I'd put it probably 8 out of 10. I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, if you're into mystery or suspense, definitely worth a watch. I highly recommend you check it out.
Yeah, it is interesting that it's like a noir film, and then it just kind of stops. And then the mystery is not a mystery anymore, I guess. Like that's maybe what it's supposed to be, but yeah, it is kind of like, oh yeah, I'm really hooked into this like mystery thriller, and then it's kind of like it's almost like not quite, but I was gonna say it's kind of like when to use the usual suspects, it's kind of like at the end when uh, Kaiser Soze like walks out of the place and it's like explaining like, oh yeah, it was me in here and I was here and you're kind of like, oh shit, it was him the whole time. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of like a 45-minute Diane's actually a piece of shit and tried to kill Camilla. It's like, um, yeah. Well, going in, like I said, leading this off. This is one of my favorite movies. I had it at a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so a 10. And you know what? I'm gonna update it and leave it at a 10. I don't know. To me, this is like one of those movies that I would not change a single thing in the movie. I feel like sometimes you can kind of watch a movie and you'd be like, why didn't I? Like, I'm trying to think, but like, we watched like Beetlejuice, and there was just like plot lines that were not like they didn't need to be there. I'm thinking of like Social Network. It's like, oh well, I would change like this thing, and so like, or I wish it told this more, but I feel like this movie is just one that like I turn it on and I sit back and I just enjoy it. It's like an experience, and as I've said before on this podcast on numerous movies, I like movies that feel like an experience that stick with you after, that you're gonna sit and like simmer on. And Mulholland Drive, definitely so much. It's definitely the first time I saw Mulholland Drive, I was like, wow, I just need to sit with this movie for a couple days and like pick it apart and think about what I watched and like how like think of this as like kind of like we were saying, like find the narrative in it. Um, like there is one, but like tie it together in my head. I feel like, and so yeah, like we said, actors amazing. Um, the fact that Laura Harring and Naomi Watts and even Justin Theroux and like the lady who plays Coco, like seeing their like split personalities and like the two characters they're playing, like they do such a good job in like differentiating them almost. Like Adam becomes this like asshole like director. Like what does he say at the dinner? Like I got the pool and she got the pool boy. And I'm like, oh my god. Like just seeing the duality of these characters, it's so good because, like Ben said, like it's kind of unsettling. You're like, wait a second, is that a different actress? Like, more so than I feel like Camilla's the hardest one because there is another Camilla Rhodes in the movie, but like seeing them become this other character, like whoa. The music the score is so good. It's like it's creepy when it needs to be, and it's kind of like subtle sometimes. Definitely, I mean it's the same guy who did Twin Peaks, so there is like has a similar vibe, and it's still David Lynch. Um, but like you said, cinematography so good. Um, a lot of some unique cinematography. Um, like I love the with Mr. Rourke where the guy goes to talk to him and you see Mr. Rourke in the distance and you see that reflection in the foreground. Um, and then they do the reverse and you can like see him through the glass but see Mr. Rourke's reflection on him in the glass. I thought that was really good. A big reflection guy over here, so that love me some mirrors and some reflections. Uh, the shot like we're talking about where it's like even like an homage to like old school Hollywood where it's like the dolly zoom in to Naomi Watts when she's seeing Justin Theroux with 16 Reasons playing over. You're like, whoa, like the classic Hollywood shot. And then like I was talking about with these like shot reverse shot, like a lot of iconic cinematography in this movie. Yeah, it's really good. I would highly recommend it. It is a little long. I'm just gonna give my like forewarnings to people if they're ever debating watching this movie. It's a little long. It was like almost 2.5 hours, maybe a little over. There is some. I don't want to call it gratuitous, but there is some extended, hot and heavy sex scenes in the movie. So be aware with that. If you're gonna watch it with your parents or something, you might have that awkward. We're not watching the same thing, moment. But pull out my phone. And yeah, if your kids are in the room, don't watch this movie. But
No,
yeah,
this isn't the reason I like this movie, guys. This isn't why I picked it, I promise.
yeah, watch it with your friends.
Better than
But
watching Napoleon Dynamite at a bachelor party.
no, it's not. That's a memory I'm gonna die with, Ben. I hope you're.
That's good because it almost killed the rest of us.
But yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. I don't think it's available anywhere as of recording, but go buy it. Support dead David Lynch, okay? This is a state or whatever. I don't know who gets the money. Yeah. It's the end of the episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod, and check out our website, www.cocktailsandclassicspod.com. Hit up the show notes. Hit up the Casker link. It's not Casker. It's Curious Elixirs, Dylan, you silly goose. Hit up the Curious Elixirs link and get yourself some booze-free cocktails. They're satisfying. They're natural. They're organic, baby. They're fancy without
And if
the alcohol.
you're talking about this one, it's empty.
Hey. Hit up that link. We get a little kickback. You get some fancy cocktails without booze. What else could you want in life, I guess? Maybe some booze in there, but
You don't need it.
you don't. Ben and I just said we don't drink unless we're podcasting, and we're podcasting. We're not drinking, so, share us with your friends and family. Check us out next time. Hopefully it's pretty soon. And as always, watch responsibly.